Hey guys, and welcome back to the English Language Academy. Today I'm going to be talking through verbs, and in particular transitive and intransitive verbs. Okay, so let's get straight into it. What is an intransitive verb? Now, as we're going to find out, the thing that separates an intransitive from a transitive verb is the way that it's structured in a sentence. So a sentence with an intransitive verb only has a subject and a verb. So, for example, the subject is a person or a thing doing the action. Okay? So this could be a dog, a person called Mike, an elephant, or even the Queen. So the verb is the action, state, or occurrence. So a doing or being word. Now, some examples of this may be writing, eating, sleeping, walking, or talking. Okay, now a transitive verb differs, as we'll see, in the sentence structure. So, a sentence with a transitive verb contains a subject and a verb, a bit like an intransitive verb sentence structure, but the only differing part is that it contains a direct object. Okay, so the subject is the same, it's a person or a thing doing the action. The verb is the action, state, or occurrence once again, but the direct object is the person or thing that is acted upon by the subject itself. Okay, so that could be a book, a football, an oven, a pencil, or a mug. Now, they're just a few examples to give you an idea. Okay, but by locating the direct object in a sentence, we can then tell that the verb used is transitive. Okay, so let's just look at a quick example. Okay, so in this sentence, Brian is drinking tea. We've highlighted the subject, verb, and direct object. So Brian is the subject, so he's the person or thing doing the action. The action itself, the verb, is drinking. And as we can see, there is a direct object. The direct object is tea. So that's the thing that Brian's acting upon. So Brian is drinking tea. So there is a direct object, so we can tell that the verb used in this example is transitive. When compared to Brian is drinking, there is no direct object here. So we can tell that this particular verb is intransitive. Okay, we're going to look at a few examples. So, as a general rule, as we've already explained, a sentence contains intransitive verbs if it does not, and that's key, it does not have a direct object. So intransitive verbs usually describe a movement or physical behaviour in relation to the subject, and that's very important that it is in relation to the subject. Okay, so a few examples. The Queen is talking. So the Queen is the subject and talking is the verb. Okay, so talking's in relation to the person that's doing it, the subject. The door opened. So the opening is the verb, opens the verb, door is the subject. Mike is reading. The elephant is running. So running is the verb, elephant is the subject. And as we can see, none of these examples so far, a bit like the next example, does not have a direct object. So it only has a subject and a verb. And as we've already discussed, this is the factor that distinguishes the difference between intransitive and transitive verbs. Okay, so intransitive verbs can contain adverbial phrases, so phrases that describe the verb used. So an example of this could be loudly. So the Queen is talking loudly. Loudly is the adverbial phrase. Slowly. Okay, the elephant is running slowly. Okay, and the last example, peacefully. So the dog is sleeping peacefully. These adverbial phrases are used to describe the verb. So try and incorporate them in your sentences, and then you can also identify the different parts. So let's remember and go over the rule again. A sentence that contains intransitive verbs does not have a direct object. Okay, now transitive verbs. And we'll look at some examples for this. But first off, the rule. A sentence that contains transitive verbs if it does have a direct object. Okay, so it does have a direct object in comparison to the intransitive verbs. Okay, some examples. Okay, so David is drinking coffee. So as we can see, and we've highlighted it again so it's easy for you to understand, David is the subject, drinking is the verb, and coffee is the direct object. So because there's a direct object present, the verb drinking is a transitive verb. Okay. The soldier is shooting. Shooting is the verb, and it's a transitive one because it is linked to a direct object, the target. Okay, so we've had a look at transitive verbs, and we understand that there is a need for a direct object to be present. Okay, now we can also use something called detransitive verbs or ditransitive verbs, and they contain two objects, but it's slightly different. Okay, so as a transitive verb only contains a direct object, a ditransitive verb contains a direct and an indirect object. Okay, so an example of this would be Tom is buying me a t-shirt, where me is the indirect object and t-shirt is the direct object. Okay, so the indirect object represents the person or thing receiving the direct object itself. So Tom as a subject is buying, buying is a verb. Me is the indirect object, so I'm representing the person receiving the direct object, t-shirt. So now we know how this all pieces together when we're piecing together all the different parts of the grammar in the sentence. Okay, so we've had a look at transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. I hope this lesson has been useful. Thanks for tuning into the English Language Academy. I'll leave my link below in the description for my actual tutoring profile on italki.com, and follow me on Twitter. I'll leave that link in the description as well. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. I will have more videos like this, more lessons on grammar, but also some walkthroughs for exam technique for specific certifications. So thank you guys once again, and I'll be back soon.